Hello and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Green from CoachValerieGreen.com. And this podcast is made to bring you expert teachers to help you to feel that soul shaking love, that mind, body, spirit connection with yourself and with your true love. And so for that, I'm excited to bring you Sarika, it's pronounced Sarika Jain, and she is a love and dating and relationship coach. And I've been following her for years, and I just love how her message goes deeper than a lot of coaches. And today we're going to talk about how to really close your X files and make room for the one. So hi, Sarika.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, and I'm excited to have you because I've been following you, and I feel like so many of my clients come to me if they're single and they have the one that got away. He still kind of comes up in her mind, and she keeps comparing new guys she meets to him. And so this is something that I've certainly been through, and a lot of clients come to me with this issue.
Mhm.
So I love that this is something that you specialize in. And so I'll tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll just dive in.
Sure, sounds great.
Yeah. So I've been on Sarika's email list for a few years, and I always love how her message is really about connecting deeply, about coming from your center and from your heart. And Sarika is a leading South Asian love, dating, and relationship coach. And her unique approach encompasses everything from uncovering old relationship patterns and letting go of your ex, which we'll talk about today, and also practicing self love and mindfulness with the goal of inspiring women to really live the love life and their entire life that they've really dreamed about, with success in both love and fulfillment in every area of their life. Because as we know, the outer reflects the inner, right? And she lives with her husband, Christian. Is that how you pronounce his name? And two daughters with a third on the way. Congratulations, in New Jersey, and leads a playful and passionate life. And so I would love it if you started out by sharing your journey about how you got from in the past being hung up on an ex to how you attracted the one, and now you have this wonderful life and beautiful family.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I was like any single 20-something New Yorker dating in New York City, and I was looking for my life partner. I'm the eldest of three daughters in a South Asian family, so I definitely felt the pressure of finding, my life partner. And of course, I've always been drawn to love too. And so I went on over 100 first dates. I've dated many men in New York City. And I kept finding that the guys would break up with me. It was like a pattern. And
I'm
even
just
though,
smiling because this is something that so many of my girlfriends
really,
tell me. It's like dating in New York City is just like, it's a little bit like the online paradigm in general, is that there's so many people that it's
yeah,
almost like a candy store mentality. It's like, oh, there's another, prettier thing over there or whatever. It's almost a numbers game, and that can be good if you know how to sort and screen and test and really tell if the person you're looking for is right for you. Right. But not good if there's that shiny thing syndrome, right?
totally. And I gave men fair chances. I got into deep relationships, and I found myself just getting into old patterns. And finally, and meanwhile, I started offering dating coaching to other women, and several of my clients started finding their partners. And I thought I'd nailed this, and so I met this wonderful guy, doctor, perfect on paper. We had a whirlwind romance for the first year. We got engaged within a year. And a month after he proposed to me, he broke up with me. And I was devastated. And I was like,
Yeah.
why? And he told me that I still had things I needed to sort through. He told me that he didn't feel safe with me, that he didn't trust me, that
Oh,
I keep people at a distance from me, that I'm too controlling, and something else, that I wasn't the woman that he fell in love with
oh
initially.
my God. That's really
Yes.
harsh feedback.
Well, it was like so clarifying, right? It was harsh in that moment. I was like, what? Like, this person that I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with thinks this of me? It was unbelievable. Like, I think I was in the first stage of catharsis, when someone breaks up with you,
Right.
which is
Totally. Like shock.
denial, shock. Exactly. And so I was so heartbroken. That night, I cried in my sheets, and a voice came from my heart that said, I need spiritual healing. And I didn't know where that voice came from. And the very next day, I met this holistic coach, and she read my energy field, and she said that because of my blocks, I keep attracting the same patterns over and over, and that I'm a magnet for heartbreak. That's what she told me. And I was
Wow.
like, oh my God, yes, I am.
Oh,
And she said that unless I recover from this relationship, my heart is gonna close up. I'm gonna become jaded and, just lose faith in love, because I really thought he was the one. And she said there's a chance you can get him back, but you're really gonna have to work on yourself first. And so I took the plunge, and I began this self love journey, mindfulness and catharsis, moving through the grieving and the anger and the bargaining, like the 5 steps
the
of
5 stages
catharsis.
of grief. Yes, of
Exactly.
course. And now I think the author wrote another book of the sixth stage, which is finding the meaning, which I think is
Yes,
really
meaning in a
important to
word.
move on,
Absolutely.
which I'm sure we'll talk
Absolutely.
about, because I'm sure that's part of learning what's your responsibility, what's the other person's responsibility, what skills do you need to learn in order to, be more authentic, because it's not about like changing for the other person, right? It's about undoing the blocks to our own authenticity, right?
Absolutely. And I think you said that right. I wasn't authentic, right? So the person he thought he fell in love with wasn't the same person he was getting married to, because I shape shifted. I would like,
Mm-hmm.
I was such a people pleaser. And of course, I felt guarded. I had trust issues. Like, I had several issues that I hadn't really resolved. And some of them were from really deep core wounds, like of unworthiness. I think unworthiness was and is, it continues to be my shadow, actually,
Yeah,
right?
totally. With so many people, it's true. I
Right.
mean, myself as well. I mean, I go into unworthiness places from time to time, and then it's time for me to do the inner child healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And loving yourself. And so and reclaiming that relationship with myself. Like, I really needed to do that. I needed to build that rock solid, loving inner mother, inner father relationship with myself, which I never had done, and which I'm now realizing is such an important aspect of becoming relationship ready, right? Because
Totally.
relationships are going to trigger you. They're going to bring out your demons. They're also great. Like, they're fun, they're blissful, they're joyful, but they are also, they force you to live outside of your comfort zone sometimes. And so I hadn't developed the tools to
Right.
navigate difficult conversations, or like how to share what I wanted and needed. So that's the responsibility part that you were talking about earlier, is like learning like what part was mine.
Yeah, right,
And
exactly.
and I did, through this process, which I now call closing my X files, I did
Yeah,
figure out, like, wow, like there were a lot of times when I gave myself away, my power away, or I didn't communicate. I didn't know, like, I literally had no idea how to communicate, because I would go between being a doormat and a bitch. So,
yeah, yeah,
because
totally.
my
And
emotions would just get like, I would just like keep smiling through my frustration. And then one day I'd be like, ah.
exactly. I
Um,
used to be in the same exact pattern, so I know exactly what you
oh,
mean.
really? Yeah.
Like sweeping conflict under the rug, and like we're spiritual people, so like we want to open our heart and we want to accept things the way they are. It's just that there's a threshold that gets crossed where then, okay, now I'm angry, right? And there's actually, as you know, as you teach, I'm sure, like 10 different steps between everything's fine and I'm angry. And if we can notice when we're starting to get a little upset and then really give ourselves compassion and identify what we're feeling and what we're needing, and then consider what the other person's feeling and needing, then we can communicate it. But that takes a lot of skill and a lot of practice, right?
Absolutely. And I think you laid it out perfectly. It's self-empathy and then empathy for the other and then communicating. And that's part of the self-love toolkit is, really learning how to like mother yourself through your inner conflict. And that's what I was learning for the first time. And as my coach explained it, she said, look, you don't have a foundation for a relationship. Your foundation is made of sand. So if you build something on top of it, it's going to topple. Like as soon as
Yes,
the
that's such a
storm
good
hits.
analogy.
It really is. And I've kept that analogy now with my coaching clients. I'm like, when we work together, we're building your foundation so that whenever your Mr. Right shows up, Mr. or Miss Right, right? Um, your foundation is going to be so strong that nothing can shake it,
Yes,
and
exactly.
that's the kind of resilience and sense of inner peace that we really want at the end of the day, like outside of a relationship.
Mm.
And so just going through this process and also reconciling with my ex and then learning that he wasn't the right partner for me and cutting cords and then letting him go, and then boom, within 90 days of that broken engagement, I met my husband
Wow.
synchronistically.
That is a huge turnaround. I mean, I'm
Yes.
really impressed by how you were able to go through all of that inner healing and then open your heart and make yourself available to meet the right person for you in 3 months. That's amazing.
I know. Well, I'm not going to say I was fully heart open, but at least I met him
Yeah.
and I felt comfortable enough to share what I was going through with him. And,
Yeah.
we were like friends. And so, it wasn't someone I'd met online, although I do believe that you can move through these things quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've coached people to move through blocks really quickly and attract their partner really quickly as well.
Yeah.
And it takes so much courage and dedication.
Oh, commitment, absolutely. It takes intention and commitment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm
courage.
seeing that. Yes, that you really did well is that you went fully in. You're like, the only way out is through, and I'm gonna
Exactly.
do whatever it takes.
Yeah, and I was grieving, I was crying in subways, I was crying everywhere. My heart was opening, and so I
Mhm.
just felt tender and vulnerable, maybe for the first time in my life. Like I think I was always like this warrior woman, like go getter. I can get anything. I can get my job, I can get a man, I can get my MBA. But then I realized that love requires surrender. It
Yes.
requires kind of an inner cultivation. I call it cultivating your love garden.
Oh,
What
I
do you
love
want to
that.
Yeah, like what do you want to grow in your love garden? And many of us have a barren strip as our love garden, and we just allow people to come and pee in it.
Yeah, no, it's
And
unfortunate but true.
yeah, right. And so what are the seeds you want to plant in it? And anyways, the point is closing your X files and self love gives you that opportunity to really clarify, like, what is it that you want in your future relationship? And when you gain that clarity, when you align yourself with your truth, when you heal these old blocks and
Yeah.
open your heart to the right partner, then you become in alignment with with love, you know?
Yes, yes, exactly. And gosh, I'm sure many people are watching or listening to this and going, I don't know what I would put in my love garden. What kinds of things do you put in your love garden? You know? Um, so you know, do you want to answer that question?
Sure. So the love garden, it requires, first of all, compassion, self-compassion, empathy, kindness, joy, equanimity. It's the four they call in Buddhism it's called the four Brahma Viharas of love. So equanimity, joy, loving kindness, compassion, right?
Mm.
You want to learn those skills and infuse them in your love garden. You want to take out the weeds of anger and low self-worth and insecurity and greed, and that requires constant weeding, trust issues. Um,
Totally.
and you want to nourish the soil, you want to make sure that there's the right nutrients and air and sunlight, and that's through pleasure and joy and, you know, defining your
Exactly.
values. And I don't know. So it's a bit of like, yeah, like, and then plant, what are your intentions for your life? Gaining clarity on that and planting those in your garden, and then you'll see them spring up over time.
Yes,
And then you'll
exactly.
find a partner who wants to garden with you.
Yes. Yes, exactly. It's like whatever you're learning and cultivating, sharing that with people. And if they're like, ooh, that sounds really fascinating, touching, inspiring, tell me more, then they might be a right match for you. And if they change the subject and they're like, that's nice, what'd you eat for dinner last night? Then they're probably not the right match because they're not really wanting to hear about what's going on for you on a deeper emotional level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how you call in your soulmate friends and other soulmate relationships and opportunities, and ultimately your soulmate. It's all about resonance.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, gosh, it's like I just feel like there's so many things that I put in my love garden, right? Like um, it's important to like, the way that I help people heal their inner child is, through
Mhm.
like neurolinguistic programming, which I am a master practitioner of, is helping people to heal their childhood wounds that way.
Mhm.
But then you also need spiritual practice, which is like the sun and the water and all of that, like to get in touch with that unconditional love that is more of a force that we tap into receiving from whatever higher source we believe in, rather than we have to make it happen.
I love that. Like just believing in a higher power, allowing it to flow through you, and it is an unconditionally loving higher power. I love that.
Yeah, and it's just like, in my opinion, so important to be able to experientially tap into some kind of unconditional love. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are, but something that you can feel when you're angry at your partner, or your date, because the real healing comes from getting in touch with our feelings and needs, not making the other person wrong, right? Which is what I teach, what I still need to learn sometimes, right? um
Absolutely.
but like that's why we need the self-love and self-compassion and curiosity and all of that first. And I love how you talk about that as ingredients to add to your love garden, because it makes it sound like, first of all, an important regular practice, as you have to be cultivating your garden every day, and also that it can be fun because it is not just like work you're doing.
Absolutely. It's fun. It's thriving. It's a thriving garden. There's butterflies and pollinators and birds and bees
Yes.
through. So
I know
absolutely.
the birds and the bees aren't just an analogy for how to talk to kids about sex for no reason. They're actually really playful and sensual, and like a good description of what it means to be playful and sensual. you
Totally.
know, and watching them is really fun. But yeah, so what would you say are, if you had to walk us through the steps, like what are the steps that you take clients through when they're stuck on their ex and they're
Yeah.
like, I can't stop thinking about him and I'm obsessed with him and I compare other guys to him, um, to cultivating that love garden and really getting clear on how to, have that self-compassion and what are the skills that you help them unlearn and learn. And then how do you know then that you're ready to open up to the new possibility of attracting the one that's right for you?
Yeah. Usually people come to me when they're either going through a breakup or they've gone through a breakup with someone they thought was the one and they're devastated, obviously. or they've been ghosted by someone they thought was the one,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And that's
And some,
so confusing.
I know, right? And it's unresolved. It's like, what happened, right? And then also some women who do work with me and they attract emotionally unavailable men. And usually that is a sign that you're still, like, you still need something to resolve from your past,
Right.
right?
Right. Definitely.
And usually an ex is involved in that too. So I find that closing your X files is something that every client benefits from.
Definitely.
We've all, I read the statistic that on average we go through 3 heartbreaks in our life,
Wow.
3 romantic heartbreaks in our
Right.
life. So it's only natural that you're going to uh, build up a wall around your heart, or have wounds from these relationships, because they're, we look for divine love through romantic love.
Yeah.
So our idea of love from God comes from love from partnership, especially, like our significant other. And so when you experience betrayal or abandonment or isolation, rejection, whatever, then you're going to develop that wound in your heart.
Hmm. Yes. I know you're recovering from a cold. That's why you keep coughing.
Yes, yeah.
um, but
Um,
which is totally normal. But no, I completely agree. And so then how do there's so many different methods of healing, right? And
right.
so
So the first
as
thing I
opposed to just yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the first thing I do with the client is we focus on self-love, focusing on the person's emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. So kind of going through all those steps. Because when you raise your vibration, you're able to actually heal blocks much quicker. And so, I find that that step in itself, which I call be a love magnet, already, like, clients start seeing huge impacts in their life,
Totally. Yep.
better
I
colleague experiences, better relationship experiences. I'm sure you've experienced the same, right? It's like
oh
self-love
yeah.
just turns everything around, right?
I'm nodding because it's so true. I mean, I even notice when I'm walking through the street, sometimes I do an experiment where I'm like, because this is what I teach, right? So I'm like, well, let me close my heart and be guarded and then see how people respond to me, and then like open my heart and like just notice the beauty around me and, feel the sunlight on my skin and, smile at people. And even if I don't smile at people, I notice people open doors for me. They'll smile at me. It's just because I'm feeling open.
Totally. And you've also let go of self-critical thoughts. You've let go of regrets that you no longer need to hold on to. You're setting healthy boundaries. You're communicating your feelings and needs. You're doing things that give you pleasure and letting go of things that drain you. So there's a lot of ways of, kind of creating those self-loving conditions. And it's a practice, right? Like you said, mindfulness, meditation, all of that, right? It
Yep.
sounds like a lot, but you can move through it quickly. You can learn the tools, relatively quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next step is around healing old blocks. And I have a process for that. And also in my coaching, I offer psychosomatic kind of healing through those blocks as well. So it's kind of a combination, but you can just go through the rituals, healing old wounds from your childhood, like that's part of it, but then closing your X files, and that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And that's really identifying where you might still have anger or trust issues, or like, why did he leave? I just don't understand, and just kind of like going through that process. And even if you don't know, like maybe you think you're over an ex, right? There's still something to learn from your past, significant past relationship.
Yeah. And I always like to say if you keep on having memories come up, It's just that there's still something that your psyche is trying to learn and integrate. And so it's important to ask yourself the right questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and it's so funny. I have clients who even when they start dating, they're like, I don't know why I still keep thinking about my ex. And I'm like, that's normal, because like your ex kind of represents that masculine figure that was in your life. And, you know, uh, but your hold on him won't be as strong, your attachment. And
Right.
so if you'll be able to move on, like if you go through the process of closing your X files, you cut energetic cords, spiritual cords, psychic cords, and you learn what you needed to, and you lift all that baggage off of you. Like that's how I describe it. It's like becoming baggage free.
I love that. You just feel like a weight has been lifted off of your shoulders. And
Absolutely. And
that's
your
how we
heart
know
doesn't
that.
hurt. Yeah.
Exactly right. Like that's, because I still from time to time thinking about my ex, or an ex, but when I think about him, it's like the feeling I get is like, oh, I learned all this stuff and I have these great memories and I'm glad we had that relationship, right? It's not like I'm pining after him or missing something that I haven't resolved. And if I was, then I would know that there's just still more limiting beliefs for me to work through, or still more old wounds to heal, or there might be a quality that he had that met a need of mine that's not getting met in my life now. And it's, how did I feel when he did that? And how else can I get that now without him? Right. So it's like there might be some information for me to learn from that. But it's not going to feel
Absolutely.
like I'm pining or I'm feeling like my worthiness is in question. And if I am, then there's just more inner work to do.
Absolutely. I love that. I love, just even if the exercise is for clarifying what it is that you do value, what it is that you do, how you do want to feel in your life or in your future relationship, and what needs of yours are, truly important to be met in a relationship. Just having that clarity, because you attract what you think you attract.
Right.
And so that's why I think I love what you just said around, yeah, like just learning what it is that you do want in a relationship, because you can manifest it. You can manifest anything, right? And maybe you
Exactly.
manifested your ex to fulfill needs at that time. And that's one thing we also have to learn is, my healer, she told me, each guy is going to take you from one point to the next.
Exactly.
It's no, you don't have to think about, oh, every relationship's going to take me till the end point. No, like you're learning through each relationship. Everyone
Yes.
has something to teach you.
Yep. Exactly. I love that quote that like everyone is either, you're there to teach them something or you're there to learn something from them.
Absolutely. They're your mirror in
Yep.
that moment. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, and it's funny. It's like I can say, I know this is a different topic, but I can say like my husband brings out the worst in me, so this relationship isn't right. Or I can say, oh, like I don't like how I am sometimes because he's triggering a wound that I haven't felt triggered since I was 3 because he's my imago, and that's just more work for me to do of being vulnerable and telling him how I feel and what I need, and then we have the opportunity to get closer. But if I judge the message and I judge how I'm being and how I'm showing up, or if I judge this memory that's coming up, then I don't have the chance to get the learning from it.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that's what you're saying is that everything that comes into your life is a learning opportunity if you're willing to really have mindfulness and be in your heart. And then that's if your ex keeps coming into your mind, then that's a good thing because then there's more to unlearn and learn and heal and grow so that you can fully remove the blocks to being available to the right one for you as you so aptly demonstrate.
Yes. Yes. And I've seen it time and time again with most of my clients. They upgrade the quality of men that they begin attracting, because they've let go of those cycles of
Right.
emotionally unavailable men, or the narcissist or the guy who couldn't commit, or, usually there's something, some pattern that you've been experiencing until now. And or if even if it's just gaining more self-confidence, like, well, this is who I am, and this is what I desire, and having, becoming embodied in your femininity, your sexuality, your needs, your feelings, your desires, uh, those are all things that we as humans, as women, we need to also get connected with. So I think that this experience is deeply embodying at the same time, like growing your intuition, growing your connectedness to yourself, and not settling for less. Like, I was so used to settling for less in my life. And I remember when my coach told me that, she was like, you're just settling for less in every aspect of your life, and you don't even realize
Right.
it.
I
And
know, it's
it's
so
true.
true. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody does that at some point, and it's I forgot who I originally heard this quote from, but it's something like, we don't attract what we deserve, we attract what we believe we deserve. And it's so true, because like, if you don't feel worthy, you're not going to make eye contact with the guy you're really into, and then he's not going to feel safe to approach you, probably, and then you're going to be approached by somebody who wants to, get past your barriers, and then he might just be a player. I mean, I'm saying a cliche, but it's happened many times to my clients, I'm sure to yours as well. And my problem wasn't attracting men as much as it was staying in relationship, because I tend to have all my toxic patterns come out when I'm in one. But I think that, you're living proof, as well as many of my clients, and I'm sure your clients, that when you really do this work to let go of your old attachments and learn both how to open your heart and be vulnerable, and also just how to have the right communication skills, and how to grow that garden that's the foundation for love and compassion in your relationship, then that's when that quality of man increases, who reflects back to you your new version of what you deserve.
So true. So true. I mean, you become magnetic, you become sexy, you become so turned on by yourself and your life that other people feel turned on by you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that's how you felt when you first met your husband, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
like, yes, this is scary because I'm just learning how to be vulnerable, but I'll be vulnerable with him. And then he responded well, and you felt safe. And then
Yeah.
that's when something could actually develop.
Absolutely. It just felt like being at home with him. I
Yeah.
remember I now call it like the Taco Bell versus the green juice test. I was so used to
I
Taco
love
Bell
that. Right.
in my love life, and it like and it took a lot of rewiring for me to desire like the kind, gentle man, the type B man, who just wanted to be there for me and show up for me, and like I could actually feel attracted to him. I mean, he's an amazing man. Like, he's very, he's everything that I could desire and want for. But before my I cleared my blocks, I couldn't see him,
Right.
you know? Like, it's so funny. I think we've been in each other's vicinity for a really long time, for many, many years. We lived in the same parts of the city. We had common friends, but we never saw each other. And that's
Right.
another thing. It's like, when you're blocked, your partner could be right in front of you. It could be one contact away from you, but you
Totally.
can't see them because of your blocks.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I've coached women with a similar story. Like, I had one client who was in a class with her now husband, and it was like a 6 month class, So like, in the beginning, she wasn't even attracted to him at all, and then she was
Mhm.
doing her inner work, and suddenly it's like, well, he's pursuing me, but he's not my type, right? But then it's like, you do the inner work, and your type changes.
Yeah, yeah, you become wired for healthy love. Like, that's how I call it. And
Yep.
ultimately, that's what you want. You don't want a man who, like, withdraws when he shuts down, or doesn't call you, doesn't show up for you, even though that's sometimes what we as women have been programmed to want. It's crazy. I don't want to
Yep.
generalize, but I think that a lot of smart go-getter women were used to that kind of adrenaline pumping kind of love, and
Yep.
that's what we think falling in love feels like, but really, to me, falling in love feels more like just coming home, like
Yes.
yourself, and then when you're with someone you just feel a sense of like calmness, and it might
Totally.
not
And like,
seem like it's butterfly, I mean there were butterflies, but it wasn't, the same type of butterflies I felt with, like, you know the past exciting guys.
no, totally. I think Ken Page talks a lot about this in Deeper Dating. He says if you feel fireworks on the first date, that all that means is it's a sign that either you'll have really healthy babies or they're going to trigger your deepest childhood wounds. Because it's like your unconscious mind is the one making that decision about attraction. And it's like, oh, this person reminds me so much about my parents. I feel like, I finally come home. But like, then what you don't realize is they're going to trigger you the same way that you got triggered with your parents.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what the fireworks mean on the first date, and
Yeah.
it's like you want to, what Ken Page says is you want to date people like not on the 10 end of the spectrum. You want to date people like more like 7 or 8 and see if through connecting with them they become a 10. Obviously, you don't
Yeah.
want to date someone you're not attracted to, right? It's a balance.
Yeah, yeah. I remember someone asked me, like, should I continue dating someone I'm not attracted to or I don't have chemistry with? And, I'm like, if the guy is nice or kind and he shows up for you, I would say go on a second date,
Right.
maybe go on a third date, you know? But sometimes it takes time for a relationship to blossom, you know? It's like when we make friends, we don't just become best friends with someone overnight.
Exactly.
The relationship grows, and I think that's the same with really nice guys. I have a client who, when she started dating this guy, she was like, I don't know if I can go on another date with him, like he seems really reserved. And after the fourth date with him, I told her date him and date other guys,
Right.
like you're not losing anything you know
Exactly.
he shows up, he plans dates, he's kind. Okay, maybe he's a little reserved or boring in the beginning, but just keep showing up, whatever, and talk to other guys. And she went on lots of dates with other guys, but then she went on like 4 or 5 dates with this guy, and then she's like, I think I really like him. Like there's something about him that I think I'm getting smitten by.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's what you want to look for, right? Is like as you date someone, are you getting more attracted as time goes on? Or less attracted as time goes on, right? Because you want to be paying attention to that. Because the guy who's like a 10 on date 1, if you really pay attention to the red flags, he'll turn into a 5 by date 4, if like he's not the one. Just based
Totally.
on like, oh, I don't like this quality that he has, or he's kind of rude to the waiter, or.
Or
And
maybe
we
you
don't want
start
to be
placing
like,
all your eggs in this basket with this wrong guy,
right.
just because you felt like you had fireworks, and that's also a danger.
Exactly. Yeah. And it sounds like we're on the same page in terms of how we support women in dating. And I know that that is a huge part of how you help women too, all the way from removing the X Files to finding the one to then having a fabulous relationship. And I know that you have a free gift to share with our audience in terms of taking the man magnet quiz and getting your free assessment, which will apply to you whether you're still hung up on your ex or whether you're just single and wanting to attract the right one.
Absolutely. You'll find out your Indian Goddess Archetype,
Ooh.
and you'll get an assessment of what kinds of men you're attracting, and steps that you can take to release your blocks if you have any, to find your Mr. Right.
Oh, that's cool. I've never identified my Indian goddess archetype. Maybe I'll take your quiz just to identify that.
Yeah.
I love that. And yes, is there any closing thoughts that you want to share with our audience?
I just believe in love. I believe that every woman is worthy of being in a healthy, loving, lasting relationship. And so, if you're looking for your soulmate, I guarantee he or she is looking for you. So I just want you to keep it up. Like, show up for your love life every day, even if it's 5 minutes of self-love. You know, doing an
Yes.
affirmation in the morning or getting on an app every day. It doesn't matter. Getting support, with a coach or a course. But your partner is there, like waiting for you and
Yes.
waiting for you to release your blocks so that you can see
Yes.
them.
Oh my God, I love that. It's so true because I like to say that when we're ready, then what we seek is seeking us. And if you're meant to have this great marriage, then the guy is out there looking for you too. And
Yes.
it's just about tapping into your intuition around where you're likely to meet him and then, doing the inner work and the outer work to get yourself in the place that you're likely to meet him and then letting the story unfold, right?
Absolutely.
So I love this. I feel so inspired hearing you, not just by your story, but also by all of the wisdom that you shared. And I encourage everybody to get Sarika's free gift so that you can remove your own blocks to attracting the right one for you. And I just really look forward to sharing this with the world so that so many women can just free their heart and be ready for that soul shaking love that we all deserve.
I love it. Thank you, Valerie.
Yes, thank you. And till next time.